welcome to the latest episode of Industry Insights, where I'll be talking to Jose Sabal, Director at Sabal Food Safety Consulting. Welcome to today's episode of Industry Insights. I'm so happy to welcome Jose Sabal to the show, and I'm asking him right away, please go ahead and introduce yourself, Jose.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm very happy to be here. And oh my goodness, introduction. Uh, I help people in the food industry to try as much as possible because, like, everybody says perfection is very difficult, but as much as possible, try not to have a recall. That's my main job.
That is a very modest introduction. I mean, people who know you know that there's a lot more behind that. And I also checked out your website and your LinkedIn profile. And so I do know a little more about you. Specifically, what caught my eyes were the time and expertise that you invested during your work with manufacturers in the plants. So do you want to share a little bit about that in relation, of course, to your approach, helping others, food professionals, to prevent recalls from happening?
Yeah. So as a general approach, I believe that I'm a very fortunate guy. I I mean, it's just a very good coincidence of things that happen in my life. I'm going to start, of course, years ago when I studied engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Engineering gave me a very structured approach on how to set up systems. Okay, I understand when you say systems, I can see it in my mind. I see the structure of a system. And because if you develop systems to achieve consistency and to, as much as possible, try to achieve continuous improvement, there must be I'm going to use a technical language. There must be a technique that I should choose to determine risk within the operations of that system that is embedded in me. Actually, you know what is funny? I'm actually going right now through a master in risk management. I should be done by this year at the end of the year, but I'm starting again and I love it.
That's great. Yeah. Learning and then, yeah, learning new things is it's just a
Yeah.
great thing to do because it keeps your mind active and things change and there are always new as you said techniques out there or systems out there, and if you don't know about them or you don't know how to handle them, it's
Yeah.
very unfortunate. But yeah, and so tell me about your approach, your daily approach when you have a new client. You go to a plant or into their I don't know, manufacturing facilities. How do you start working with a client?
So normally we got together on a meeting, and I normally, I don't charge for the first meeting. It's 1 hour, but I just need to understand what they do, what is the product, where they are located, a little bit of, I need to understand basically how old is the equipment, the plant, and so on. That is going to play a significant role in preventing recalls. But I mean, it's just a basic know-how. And then things got to, where we are right now with technology, that some of the jobs, Stephanie, it can be done remotely. There is no need to travel.
Yeah.
In many jobs, I'm not going to say all of them, but I'm going to say that in many jobs, Jose, I need you to help me with developing an FSBP program. I don't need to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in those cases where, we are manufacturing whatever cookies, and then, we have these specific problems and we have no clue what is the issue that we're having. Yeah, at that point, I need to go there. I need to see the equipment, the processing, people, operation, the attitude of people when they're working to check if they pay attention, if they are doing that with commitment and engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there some specific things that you run into mostly when you're at such manufacturing plants, or what are the five most seen mistakes or challenges you're facing?
You know what, Stephanie, I'm going to use the logic of a system. So far has been working great for me. In a system, you first identify the requirements, and then you develop the procedures that you're going to use for those requirements according to the risk of those operations. So once you have your controls for those risky situations ready, you validate those controls. And after the validation, assuming that is a process that can be validated before implementation, but I mean, after you have everything validated is when you start training. Mm-hmm. And this is when the documentation connects with people.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, I might be wrong, but in my personal opinion, according to my experience, that is the weakest link in a system. Is when people try to train others according to the requirements applicable to that system, whatever they are. In our case, the biggest problem, it's not a problem. Let me correct myself. The biggest issue is to understand that the requirements of the regulation are not exactly the same as the requirements in GFSI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do not see, and that was part of the meeting in Atlanta, the GFSI meeting in Atlanta, there is an intent, there is an effort. And I believe that if we in the world have only one set of requirements for all countries, that will be just amazing. It will be the best way to approach food safety worldwide. But you know what? I don't think that is going to happen, at least when I'm alive. Maybe in the future.
Let's not give up hope.
Yes. But as of right now, if it's a system approach, I will need to get all of the requirements from laws and regulations, all of the requirements from, let's say, GFSI, could be kosher, halal, whatever that is. And I'm going to use this word, Stephanie, integrate them into a system. Yeah. And as I was mentioning, assuming that the process of integration and all of the risk assessment for all of the different programs in a system are effectively done, you're going to have a wonderful documentation. You just need to transfer that knowledge to those that are going to be performing those activities. Mm-hmm. So guess what? The training is not being performed properly because most of the people do not have documentation that is good enough to help them train people.
Yeah.
So I was an auditor for 9 years, FFCC 22000, SQF, and I audited the Marine Stewardship Council chain of custody, and I performed second-party audits, a lot of them, for Kraft Heinz and for Costco and McDonald's and Burger King and so on. And I mean, the evidence is there. I saw it for 9 years continuously over and over and over, 1 week after the other. Yeah. The training program is one of the biggest problems, and is one of the, most likely reasons for the recalls.
Yeah, there must be a change in people's minds, and they must really understand why their specific job is so very important, no matter where they are in the food industry. It's just something that needs to be, communicated in the right way so that everyone understands what the trainer is talking about. And I get that absolutely. If you don't know, I mean, the system can be outstanding, but as long as no one knows how to use it, it's worthless. You can just throw it in the bin. Yeah, that is. But there's just something else that comes to mind that I also see as a problem. Well, as you said, not a problem, but it's a challenge. But the global approach to all of that. And you already mentioned laws and regulations, and they are different in different countries, in different continents. You have different laws you need to follow. different regulations, and yet the food, let's say from the US, travels to Europe and vice versa. And you have different approaches, and still the food has to be safe. Consumers need to be protected. And to me, that makes things really complicated. What do you say to that? How can we overcome that challenge, Jose?
Okay. So look at my approach, my personal opinion. So I teach the FISMA classes, most of them. I'm not teaching the intentional adulteration yet, but I mean, it's in my radar. I'm going there. But besides that, I'm teaching all the classes. My father was a lawyer. My brother is a lawyer. And in one of these conversations years ago, my brother was telling me, it is impossible that you teach regulatory classes if you do not understand the law. Because the regulations are created to comply with the law. Yeah. How can you teach a regulation without understanding the law? Mm-hmm. And he was, saying and saying and saying until last year, I took a course for 3 days for lawyers, food lawyers. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, Stephanie, you have no idea the way that I'm teaching the classes now and the way that I was teaching the classes before, because I understand the law. What is amazing is that if I go to Europe and I go to the European laws and regulations, they are not that much of a difference. The regulations are different, but the law is the same. Mm-hmm. So according to that class, if we do not understand the law, it's going to be impossible to develop that system. Mm-hmm. Because in the law, the way the law defines food is very unique. Yeah. In Europe, human food and animal food are two different things. In the United States, the definition of food includes humans and animals. What about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so even though that I was telling you that if you know the law, you're going to be pretty much good. Just by going at the simple definitions that are going to be used for you to develop an effective system, they're different. Mm-hmm. So, and then you go to the prohibited acts, which, by the way, in Europe, they're exactly the same. It is prohibited to receive anything, any ingredient, any food additive, which includes all of the food contact surfaces of equipment and utensils, includes the gloves that people are using, includes food contact packaging material, because all of those are food additives by definition in the law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And then the second prohibited act is to make sure that we always, each and every single second of operation, work under sanitary conditions. Mm-hmm. And in order to define sanitary conditions, we need to understand very well what is the product that we're making and which are the ingredients that we're receiving for that product. Because as long as everything that we receive is in full compliance with the specification that makes sense, because I have seen hundreds of specifications that are just crazy and they don't have the right information, and then assuming that your product has a specification that is extremely well developed and your product is in full compliance with that specification, okay, your product is not adulterated. And watch out, because you may be producing a product that is 100% in compliance with that specification, and you have, I don't know, pest infestation in your facility, the product is by default adulterated. Because what the government is going to be evaluating is the sanitary conditions of the facility, not the end product. And that is not in the regulation. That is in the law.
Yeah, yeah.
Then, of course, it's prohibited to ship any product that is adulterated or misbranded.
Of course, yeah, yeah. I was a guest at Brian's food safety chat last Friday, and it was really interesting. Yeah, well, one of the Fridays. It was so interesting because we talked about global supply chains, and the differences and the challenges, and we also talked about the baby powder, the food not
Yes.
out of yeah, for drinking, for the bottles. And the challenges that US had at the time when your stores ran out of the food for the babies, and European companies wanted to provide that, wanted to ship it over, and it got rejected at the borders because the measures weren't in the right way on the label, and there was no contact person for any US citizen to call and contact. So on the one side, I think that is understandable.
Mm.
However, on the other side, if lives are at stake, and if you have a baby and you want to feed your baby and you don't have any food, but you're desperate, I think this is a two-sided sword, really. And yeah, it could have been handled differently, but that's the situation we're facing at this time. And maybe kind of jumping on board with your hope for the future, this will this will turn out and become easier for everyone, and to ship their products, their ingredients, their food. But of course, they have to have a certain, not a certain standard, but they have to be safe, because if they're not safe, they're not food, right?
Yep. 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 But you know what? The way that adulteration is defined in the law, not the regulation, in the law says that if the product contains, and I'm going to start mentioning a few things, you are, imagine a bag of mandarins. You have a bag of mandarins. You open that bag and you put inside one orange, and you close the bag again, and you sell that as mandarins, the product is adulterated.
Incredible. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
look at these examples. Okay. Imagine that you are making ice cream, and the machine that is pumping the ice cream into the buckets is lubricated with food grade grease.
Mm-hmm.
If the ice cream ends up with minimum amount of food grade grease, the product is adulterated. And a lot of people are going to say, Jose, it's not an issue because it's food grade grease. And I'm going to say, yes, really? So if you go to the supermarket, do you have an aisle where you can say, hey, where is the food grade grease or food grade oil because I want to make some fried eggs at home? You don't have that.
Yeah.
Because food grade grease is not food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are the things that people are not fully understanding. It's not just about the hazards. Yes, I understand that the hazards is a very serious issue. That's the reason why we have risk assessment. But at the end, the definition of adulteration in the law includes any other thing that is not part of the specification of the product.
Yeah. But since people don't understand that, it makes it difficult to understand other processes or explanations as well. And that, kind of brings us back to the training aspect. You have to align your training to the understanding of your people, the people that you're training, and the capability to understand what you're trying to train them for.
Stephanie, one of the things that I did after taking the lawyer's class is I grab a copy of the old GMPs in the United States, 21 CFR 110. And I compare that to the GMPs right now in the preventive controls regulation.
Mm-hmm.
And basically you can say, like everybody say, because it's right, basically they are the same. I mean, a lot of those components, I'm not, surprised if they were just copy and paste. Certain things were rearranged, and the training requirements were now required. This is one of the changes. The way that they were organized is very similar to 110. But to my point, if you go to the section in the old GMPs, in the 110, if you go to that section of the regulation and you go to 110.80, processes and controls, and you start reading the statement there, one of the sections says it is required that you implement quality control measures or quality control procedures or something like that. Quality control. What is that? Systems in ISO. Hello, knock knock. Systems in ISO. It was already there. The thing is that it was written in a language that was not, I'm going to say, friendly, and it was not done on purpose, of course, but it was not friendly for anyone to just read that and understand, oh, I need to go also, and I need to set up a system, and I need to pick up a risk assessment technique and or methodology to apply in all of the different programs. Because, by the way, one thing that I'm already realizing going through my master's degree right now is that the risk assessment that you're going to develop for your food safety is going to be different from the risk assessment for food fraud. It's going to be different from the risk assessment for food defense. It's going to be different from the risk assessment for the adulteration of the food with something that is not a hazard. So, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
really, it's challenging.
It is. Yeah, yeah. Good thing we have people like you who say, and I think this is so amazing how you approach your professional life. If there are things that you might not know completely, you take classes. If there are things
Yeah.
out there that you're interested in, you go take other classes. So you constantly achieving more knowledge and train yourself. And I think that is just wow, congratulations. That is not a lot of people do it that way. A lot of people would go like, well, yeah, I'm not too much of an expert in that field. I'll focus on the other things that I know better. But your way, in my opinion, is the right way. And I wish there were more people in food safety like you who live, breathe, and feel food safety and just do everything they can to protect consumers. That is really wonderful, Jose. And I'm so thankful that you took the time today and shared your knowledge. And I'm really recommend everyone in the food industry who has any questions, wow, reach out to Jose. He's a huge source of knowledge, and I'm sure that you're happy to share your knowledge with everyone who asks you. And thank you so much, Jose, for doing this interview with me. And yeah, just being there and protect all of us globally. Thank you.
It was a pleasure, Stephanie. And in any other time that you want to talk about anything else, just let me know and we will do it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. And I'm sure I'll reach out again to you. So yeah, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Hussein. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. This was today's episode of Industry Insights with Jose Sabal. Thank you for your attention and see you again soon. Bye.